Green Star Communities is my pet project. I was asked to join the Green Building Council of Australia sort of this time last year to try and take the idea of a Green Star rating tool for sort of everything but the buildings and turn it into a real project. I started with no brief. I had no position description. We scoped it up and sort of a year later we're now week 5 into developing a rating tool for sustainable communities. And I'd like to highlight the word sustainable there because those that have followed us for many years, this will be quite different. And I suppose I'll pick up some of the points in Ken's presentation around the gaps in some of the rating tools. I would totally understand that those gaps do exist because those tools were built as environmental rating tools. So you won't get social and cultural and economic issues picked up in them. So this is where Green Star Communities, which is for sustainable communities, you'll start seeing some very significant departures from the traditional 8 categories that you've seen in our buildings tools for quite some time. And this is what you will see. You will see metrics and measures and best practice standards across a whole range of issues, everything from affordable housing, community cohesion, landscape, site-wide water, energy, your usual environmental aspects. It'll talk about leadership and governance, your commitment to implementation, jobs creation, innovation, ethical investment. Yes, we are biting off a lot more than we can chew. We now know why no one else has ever done this. We're learning the hard way, but it's not without the support of a number of very generous sponsors and also you guys, your peers, your clients, your organisations that are actually in there on the Technical Working Committee help us build that. We have a separate website. If anyone was interested in knowing where this little gem is going, it is greenstarcommunities.org.au. Where else are we going? Well, we've got a lot of tools. We cover off most building types, but you do get those little gems that slip through the cracks. Mixed-use buildings, aquatic centres, stadiums, jails, McDonald's drive-thrus. Where do those sort of IKEA stores, how do we address those? Where do we go with those? We came to the conclusion that we needed to have the option for a custom process. Okay, so this is a process we're currently piloting now. There are 4 to 6 projects going through the pilot process. And essentially what we do is the project comes to us and we develop a custom Green Star tool. And we work with the team. There's a very specific process there. But where it doesn't fit clearly into one of those building classes and one of our existing tools, we're hoping that once this pilot phase is completed with the custom tool pilot process, we will have on the market available to industry the opportunity to go through a custom process on the condition that your project is not eligible for one of our existing tools. So stay tuned on that one. Design, that's where we started in 2003. It sort of made sense to sort of try and nip things in the bud during the design process, because if you're not designing sustainably, you probably haven't got much of a chance of building it sustainably, and therefore not much of a chance at all to operate it sustainably. So that's why we started back in 2003 with the focus on design. And of course, as I said, 2005, industry said, well, you know, let's sort of, you know, keep these guys honest. It's great that they've designed it that way, but they've got to build it that way. So the as-built tool has been up and running for quite some time. And with no surprise, as you would expect, industry has come back to us and said, well, what about operating the buildings? You know, isn't that sort of probably the most logical sort of issue we need to deal with as well? Absolutely, and we wouldn't disagree with that. In the foreground there, you know, there's Brisbane Square, nice, very efficient glass box. There's many of them popping up on the Brisbane skyline. But the thing that really hits you right between the eyes when you look at an image like that is that really the biggest issue, if not one of the biggest issues, has to be our existing building stock. And the stats around the country are very similar. A lot of our building stock in all our major CBDs are coming close to their use-by date. So we've responded to the industry need, and just when you look at that, we're responding to that by developing up Green Star operations. Now, this is focused on the operations and maintenance of buildings. It's not focused on the existing building. Does the wind turbine turn that we installed during construction? It is about bills, it is about performance, it is about what actually is happening. This is our second go at this. Some of you may remember, it was a sort of a brief part of our history, but there was a thing called Green Star existing buildings. Went up there and no one touched it. Spent a lot of time, a lot of money, no one wanted it. Because the idea of just rating your existing building, that's great, you know, I've got a 2-star building, I sort of knew that. Industry didn't really sort of find a need for that. But what industry is telling us is that they want to know how they manage their existing stuff, whether it be an individual building or a portfolio of it. We established a stakeholder reference group. We pulled industry in a room a couple of months ago and said, right, you guys want this thing, what do we got to do? So with their input, we've developed a draft scoping paper for this new tool. It goes to our board in a couple of weeks. We hope that by the end of the year, early next year, that draft scoping paper will be out for public comment. So if you are interested in existing buildings, I suggest you keep an eye on our website. That draft scoping paper will go out for consultation, and we will generally follow the same formula for developing this tool like we have over the years. So we will finalise what the scope of it is. We will seek sponsorship from industry to fund the development of the tool. We will get all you guys together to build the tool. We will then pilot it on real-life projects, make some tweaks and tune it a bit, and release it to the market as version 1. By that time, I suspect that it will be embedded within that one Green Star concept. So a very sophisticated online rating tool that will rate the operations and maintenance and actual performance of buildings. And it's going to be a bit more sophisticated than the Excel spreadsheets we've had for 7 years, which have served us well. But for portfolio owners, this is going to be quite different. And it will, we believe, as we've scoped in draft at the moment, follow the 8 Green Star categories. It won't just be energy and water. It will be those other things that Green Star does specify. I love this slide. I go through this part of the world every day, down in the valley. This is from around about the 50s, and I think more than anything what it reminds us of, when you look at that, apart from the vehicular design that has changed over the years and the great idea we had, which was to rip out the trams, generally it's still with us. And I think as we look forward, when you look at that image, when you look at our CBD, that other image I put up there, you know, 2050 is already here. You know, it's here, it's now. We talk a lot about, you know, innovative, sustainable buildings. I reckon most of 2050 is already here when we look at what we've got. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Very concise and to the point as usual, so thank you for that. I might just get the 4 speakers up quickly and test the audience to see whether we have any questions. I'm conscious the day is moving on. I'm conscious that I'm standing between you all and a drink, which is not a very good place to be at this time of the day, but nevertheless we will. Are there any questions for any of the panel?